In the Newark by-election, where a safe Conservative seat is facing a full-scale assault from UKIP. Well, it's a largely rural seat with an electorate of 72,500. The main population centres are Newark itself and nearby Southall. But there are many villages scattered around the constituency like Collingham and Sutton-on-Trent. Well, after boundary changes before the last election, it gained parts of Rushcliffe and Bassetlaw, taking over Bingham in the south and Markham Moor in the north, but losing the town of Retford. It's affluent by East Midlands standards. The average wage there is £517 a week, compared with an average for the East Midlands of £484, although it's just below the UK average of £518. Well, this week we decided to set up stall in the marketplace to watch the action and take the pulse of the town. Our political editor John Hess found an unusual way of attracting interviewees.
And with that crucial parliamentary by-election just around the corner, the Sunday Politics in the East Midlands today has come to Newark Market to do the Cupcake Challenge. We've got dozens of these cupcakes, each of them in the different party colours.
So which party is likely to lick their lips on June the 5th and who'll end up with the electoral crumbs?
Hello, can I offer you a free cupcake?
Not for me, thanks. Not for me, thank you very much.
Giving away tasty cupcakes isn't that easy in Newark, it seems, until...
I would take the UKIP one.
UKIP one, okay.
I would.
What's UKIP?
UKIP's purple.
I'm going to shake them up.
Okay.
Shake the establishment up.
Sticking with Labour. I probably prefer that one.
Blue, okay.
And probably that one.
Independent.
Blue,
definitely. You'll take the blue one. And
look who doesn't want to miss out, the candidate with the blue rosette. Conservative candidate Robert Chenrick, until recently a director with Christie's Auctioneers. But could that Conservative majority of 16,000 end up gone?
Well, there will be national interest. What I think is most people I've spoken to in the town are after a long-term constituency MP who wants to be a real champion for the area, someone who's going to live here with their family, make a life here, and follow in the tradition of some of the other Nottinghamshire MPs we've had, like Patrick, but like Ken Clarke.
To the purple cakes!
Our cupcake swingometer lurches dramatically to UKIP, helped by UKIP's parliamentary candidate Roger Helmer and his supporters. But the veteran MEP this week faced renewed criticism over past remarks, which critics claim are homophobic and soft on date rape.
What I'm concerned with and focused on at the moment is the Newark by-election. I'm not interested in scraping the barrel of comments that were made 15 years ago. You know, the world's moved on, attitudes have changed. We're very comfortable with that.
Labour's Michael Payne hopes to bite into that Conservative majority.
The red one's definitely the best one.
But is UKIP a help or a hindrance?
UKIP's campaign is a matter for them. What I'm going to concentrate on doing is getting out on the doors, talking to people here in Newark who want an alternative. And the only way they can send that clear message to David Cameron and the Liberal Democrats who support him in Westminster is by voting for Labour here in the Newark by-election.
And will the Liberal Democrats bloom or fade in Newark? They polled 20% in the last general election.
I recognise we're no longer the party of protest because we're the party of government, or a party of government. And so what we need to show is the real benefits to voting Liberal Democrat, the difference that we're making to this country.
What if our cupcakes reflected local issues here? Reinstating emergency services at Newark Hospital for starters. Then, says this campaigner, you end up with a political hot potato.
Neither of the candidates are coming out and speaking about local issues. They seem to be ducking the local issues. They want to keep off the hot topics.
I think I'll have the yellow, please.
The yellow one?
Yes.
It's the first one we got rid of today. First yellow one.
Well, I've always been odd.
You're going with the Labour one. Yeah. Why are you sticking with Labour?
I don't know, it just looks nice.
Well, our cupcakes in Newark today have gone almost like hotcakes. If there's one outcome, it's that the Conservatives and UKIP, judging on people's preferences today, seem to be neck and neck. But look how many cupcakes are left here, and maybe that's an indication that the turnout in this by-election might not be that high.
Well, we're joined now by Paul Oakden, UKIP's campaign manager here in the East Midlands, and you're throwing everything at this election really, Paul, aren't you?
Absolutely. UKIP see this as a really important election, not just for us, but for people across the East Midlands, across Britain. This is Newark's chance to really speak up for the people of Britain in this by-election.
You were certainly mob-handed. There was about 20 of you while we were there.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you came out in force.
And those 20 people were the result of a couple of phone calls the night before. You know, we have now since then been able to send out multiple email requests, make many hundreds of calls. UKIP are very confident we're going to get a good number of activists into Newark for this by-election.
Do you really think you can win it?
Absolutely. I mean, the 16,000 majority that Patrick Mercer had means nothing now. A Conservative MP that's had to leave in disgrace. You've got a Liberal Democrat Party that are just disintegrating, who actually had quite a good show in Newark at the last election. There are votes to be picked up, and we're confident that UKIP can do it.
Fighting talk. That Conservative majority doesn't mean anything now, he says, David. Are you starting to get worried?
If you vote Conservative, you'll get a referendum in the next Parliament, and that's what you have to remember. Nigel Farage, their leader, funked standing in this election. I wonder why.
Well, Nigel Farage decided not to stand in this by-election because he got no connection to Newark, which was quite a sensible attitude to take. And actually, David talks about a referendum in Europe. They might be offering a referendum, but remember, the Conservative Party is still wanting to fight heart and soul to remain in the EU.
And David, I hate to tell you this, but we did meet a lot of people in Newark, Tory voters, who are turning to UKIP.
I'm sure I could find many who are turning to the Conservatives because we've already started to address the immigration issues. We've been bearing down on the European costs. We've got ourselves away from bailing out other European countries, and we still have this great trading bloc which has enabled our economy to grow. So we are the ones who can lead on Europe, and UKIP sadly is a protest vote.
Chris Leslie, we're told that this is a very safe Conservative seat. Have Labour written it off?
Absolutely not. I mean, I think, in fact, it's quite useful that you're putting the spotlight on some of these sort of right-wing candidates as in UKIP. I mean, I think people need to know really what they're standing for. I mean, for example, Paul, your party believes that there should be charges for people to see GPs. Maybe you could clear that one up.
We're quite happy for the spotlight to be on UKIP, and what's interesting is Chris has done what the Labour Party seem persistently doing, which is talking about UKIP being a party only taking votes from the Conservative Party. It's just not true.
People do want to know what your policies are, though, Paul. To be fair, people in Newark were saying to us that they're very concerned that the issues that matter to them locally are being sidelined. So what are you doing about those local issues that affect people up there?
Local issues are important. You know, we know all about, having talked to people on the streets of Newark, about the closure of the A&E services there. Wind farms. I mean, wind farms are a great example. You've got 13 new wind turbines proposed for an ex-RAF airfield near Newark. Our candidate, Roger Helmer, has led the argument nationally.
But you won't answer questions about what your true agenda is.
Our true agenda is to win a seat in Westminster.
I'll ask you for a third time. Does UKIP believe that people should pay to go and see a GP?
UKIP believe in common sense policies.
Answer the question.
We believe in common sense policies, and our policies, unlike the old parties, are driven by what the electorate are telling us they want.
Do they want to pay for that?
To be fair to Chris, though, Paul, it's a straight question, isn't it? Can you give him an answer?
Let's look at you're talking about GPs and charging GPs.
Exactly.
That's a manifesto commitment that we will look to make before the 2015 general election.
Right.
We've got a manifesto that's being drafted at the moment. We've got some working groups. Not at all. Of course, we'd never consider. In fact, we're the party who are suggesting that GP surgeries are open longer to make it easier for working families.
Is it a yes or is it a no?
At the moment, there is no confirmed deal about charging.
So you're still making your mind up.
It's just that Jonathan Stanley, who is your health spokesman, has said that he believes that people should pay to go and see a GP.
Well, the belief of one person is not party policy.
He's your health spokesman.
Again, what we've got are the old parties suggesting that the view of one person is the policy of an entire party.
Is this what you're saying, David?
Well, I don't want to intervene in this internal
I know, we want you to.
But the facts are, if you're going to make progress in making change in Europe, you have to vote Conservative. UKIP hasn't got the power to do it. We have already made important changes there. In this constituency, we have a first-class local candidate, and we need to strengthen the Conservative Party to bring about a referendum in the next Parliament to renegotiate. UKIP simply can't do that.
But there was a sense, I have to say, David, as well, that while I was in Newark, that people want change. They do want change. They feel that this is a time for change.
Well, they can't. Nobody else can deliver the change. We are delivering change because we've rebuilt the economy of the UK. We are racing ahead now, and we are the only ones who can bring about change in Europe. The Labour Party can't do it. UKIP can't do it. If you want to see changes in Europe, if you want to see greater power brought back to the UK, vote blue, vote Conservative.
I think you need to show some leadership in Europe if you want it to go in the right direction. And people do want change. That's why they're starting to look around. But quite frankly, going down that more Thatcherite than Thatcher route with UKIP, it would be a big mistake, as we've heard with what they do to the NHS,
Again,
charging for going to see a
talking
GP.
About UKIP taking votes from the Conservatives. It's just not true. We know from repeated by-election results that UKIP are having more success, if anything, in Labour areas than we are in Conservative areas.
Not if you're going to charge people to see a doctor,
we
mate.
talk about the Liberal Democrats. I've said, Chris, that that's not the case. You keep talking about that.
Well, that's not what your party
We're
say
talking about the
nationally.
Liberal Democrats. The Liberal Democrats obviously not represented here. At least we know where they stand on Europe, which is they want to remain in. The Conservatives are kind of mixing around somewhere in the middle.
You've got an
Where are the
MEP
Labour
standing
Party?
in Newark. A safe pair of hands for you there?
Absolutely, and with Roger Helmer, we really do have experience, a safe pair of hands, as you say, life experience
No, I asked
as
you
well
if he
as
was a safe
parliamentary.
pair of hands.
Oh, he's absolutely a safe pair
Will
of
he
hands.
stay with you? Perhaps he'll defect back to the Conservatives. He was a Conservative most of his time.
He was a Conservative for most of his time.
Maybe there's a little expediency here.
And-
We
and
don't know where it's going. And how about the fact that the Conservatives cut the amount of money that we're paying to Europe? Isn't that is slightly Thatcherite, isn't it? So we can actually
Only
get
when we
things done.
defeated you in the House of Commons vote. Only when we pushed you to do that.
We will have to leave it there, gentlemen. Paul
don't
Oakton,
think
thank you
there's
very
any
much for
push.
coming into the studio.